almost finished. Still got some people coming in. Bear with me just one moment.
It's run by an organisation called CampusLife, so just to do with student communication.
Oh, so it's not with that.
No, it's an external thing. I signed up for it. I keep telling.
Oop. They say somebody needed to mute. Right. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our roundtable session, which is kindly being hosted by CampusLife, entitled How Students Communicate in 2024. I'm sure many of you already know Oliver Harrison, who is the content director for CampusLife, who will be leading today's session. Just a bit of housekeeping with regards to the call today. As I've just previously mentioned, we will be recording the session and that will be available for everybody after today's call. If anybody has got any questions, we have got the chat functionality within Teams.
So we've lost her, have we?
To put some... Hello? Oh, so if anybody's got any questions, just to pop it into the chat functionality as well. And I will now hand over to Oliver to lead today's session. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah, and whoever was trying to justify being in this session, I promise you it's worth your while. So you can report back very soon on how valuable it will be. So first of all, thank you again for joining us on myself on this session. We've got a lot to get through, but I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days just to go through this. And genuinely, I hope you really do get a lot out of this this session and a lot of key takeaways on how to communicate with students in 2024. So for those of you who don't know us, CampusLife, we call ourselves the UK student communication experts. It's a little bit big-headed, but we do think we kind of can talk the talk and walk the walk. We do genuinely work hard to live up to that title. We help universities, PBSAs and sixth forms communicate and engage with students to create the best student experience possible. And we work with you to get your messages out in a way that students will listen to, understand, and most importantly, act upon. We do this primarily through content. So we are part video production, part social media content creation, and then we also have our digital platform browser, which brings all of that together onto one really easy to use platform that really enhances the way that you talk to your residents in your accommodation. As I said, we are lucky to work with students across the UK. We work with lots of universities and PBSAs, and that really gives us a national footprint to really understand what's going on in the sector at large, from St Andrews all the way down to Southampton. But what that also means is that we have to work hard to really stay on top of what every new intake wants from their university experience, and most importantly, how they want to be communicated with. So we know that we are unfortunately not 18 anymore, but most of the time the students that are coming to live with us this September and beyond are predominantly 18-year-olds every single year. So we really do focus a lot on understanding what the new intake always wants from their experience and how we can work with you to really get your messages across to them in a way, like I said, that they're going to listen to and act upon. So today we're going to cover a few things. We're going to look at where students look online for information, the difference in how Gen Z and Gen Alpha search, and I'll talk about the differences between those two in just a second if people don't know the difference between Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and the content you should be putting out right now for your new intake, which will be arriving in September. So, but before we do that, a quick quiz, and unfortunately this quiz will make you feel quite old. Apologies in advance. So what I want you to do, and you don't have to, you can put this in the chat, you can just kind of think about this, and unfortunately there's no prizes for this, is I want you to tell me which is older. Is Instagram older than this year's student intake? So which came first, Instagram or were this year's student intake, the birth year of this year's student intake? So if you can find the chat, I couldn't find the chat box when I was looking for it, but if you can find it, put your answers in there. But if not, then just kind of think about it and see what answers you can come up with. We will whiz through these, so we won't linger on for too long. So which came first, or which is older? So Instagram started in 2010, and students, this year's students, so those who are starting in September, again, largely speaking, obviously there's some master students and everything else, but largely speaking, this year's students were born in 2006. So this year's students are older, but they were just 4 years old when Instagram started. So the next one, Netflix, or again, this year's student intake. So essentially, if this year's student intake were born in 2006, did Netflix start before or after that? I'll give you a couple of seconds, not long, just have a think about that. So this is a little bit of a trick question, I must admit, on this one. So Netflix actually started in 1997, but if you're unfortunately old enough to remember this, they started with DVDs. So you send off with the DVDs through the post. That was way back in 1997. The Netflix that we know and love now, the streaming service, that started in 2007. So again, students are older, but only by a year. So students were one when Netflix streaming began. So again, it's important to kind of bear that in mind. And then lastly, we'll go with a recognizable one, hopefully. So this is Snapchat versus this year's students. Again, did Snapchat start before 2006? That's what we're trying to work out here. And again, very quickly. So no, Snapchat is older, but again, students are older, but again, they were just 5 years old when Snapchat launched. So if you think about Snapchat as being potentially a new platform or an innovative platform, it really isn't. So students were just 5 years old when Snapchat started. So I'm doing this quiz to kind of illustrate a key point, and that is today's students didn't really have to adapt to how they communicate online. So although they're slightly older, they were born into this world, or they grew up with Instagram existing. When they were at nursery, when they were at primary school, Instagram, Snapchat all existed. So when they got to the age of around, let's say 12 or 13, when they started using it, Snapchat, for example, had already been around for 8 years. 8 years when these students have started using that. So in their eyes, these platforms have always existed. The way that they communicate today is shaped by the content and the design of these platforms. And that's kind of a really key thing to remember from this presentation today, and how students are looking for information and where they're looking for this kind of information. So to understand this a little bit more, we picked 4 students at different universities across the UK to really explore this issue and to understand how they both communicate with each other and how they look for information online. So let's meet them.
So my name is Jess. I'm at the University of Liverpool and I'm a 3rd year.
My name's Will. I'm at the University of Southampton in my 3rd year.
My name's Beth. I'm a 2nd year student at the University of Nottingham.
My name's Lucy. I'm in my 3rd year at Leeds Beckett.
So we want to find out which apps they use the most to communicate with their friends.
My top 5 is Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, FaceTime, and then maybe like I don't know my last one.
I think the top one to communicate with my friends is definitely Snapchat, and then probably TikTok, to share content with them, and then like Instagram. That one too.
Literally the same: Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, Be Real. I'd say those are that's literally how I keep up to date with all my friends and talk to them.
So for communication, it would be either Snapchat or WhatsApp. For some reason, I never used WhatsApp before, and then a bunch of my friends had it, so now I have it. Then Instagram for content. Be Real, I use that as well. I don't use Facebook, but yeah, mostly Snapchat and Instagram.
So I just want you to remember the question that I asked. This isn't which apps or which social media platforms they use. This is which apps they use to communicate with each other. So only Will mentions WhatsApp, which most people would see as the messaging app, and it's mainly used for older generations. But all the other platforms that they mentioned, so Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, they're based around image and video content, but they use these as a way to communicate with their friends. So you've got to think about the way that they have access to all this imagery and all this video content, and it's baked into the way that they use to communicate with their friends day in, day out. So almost the messaging element part is a secondary part of how you use Instagram or how you use TikTok. For a lot of people, it's primarily that place where you watch video content. For students, it's not, it's equal. So they use TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat as equally as a messaging platform to communicate with their friends as it is to look for content and research and watch videos and so on. And they're spending an awful lot of time on social. So actually it's over 4 hours, if you add up all the top platforms, over 4 hours every single day. So that's a huge chunk of their day-to-day lives. Think of the volume of content that they're seeing and interacting with during this time every single day. So you've got to start thinking about, well, if they're going to be spending 4 hours every day on these platforms, and I want to be talking to these students, I've got to be in the locations, the places that these guys are. So I want to look a little bit more closely now at where students look for information. We've kind of covered these platforms a little bit, but let's go into a little bit more detail around that. So let's ask our students.
I think usually you see posts on social media like Instagram and like stories getting advertised here. And if I think, oh, that looks all right, then I'll search on Google and might actually find out more information about what it's about.
I think Google would be like my first option, and then like if I really want to delve deep, I'd go onto like TikTok and I'd search up on TikTok search engine and see if people have made like videos talking about it or like vlogging it or something. And then probably the Instagram page for it.
I definitely use TikTok, or like Instagram posts.
I feel like I trust Google the most to give me like solid information, like because I feel like for TikTok I kind of go for the public's opinion sort of. So like if I'll see it like how it's perceived in the public eye, like, oh, someone will be saying, oh, this festival is really good, or they'll give like their honest opinion of like, oh, this happened, XYZ happened. Whereas Google will just tell you like the facts, like this is the festival, this is when it was made, this is who it's run by, this is who's performing. So I kind of just go for like solid facts from Google, and then TikTok for like other information.
So let's just look at this in a little bit more detail. So the students here have said that they start on Google, and as most of us do when we're looking for something online, or they'll go directly to a university website. I'm using university as obviously we're asking, this is applicable to all topics, but obviously for our point of view, we want to look at university accommodation. So they'll start on Google, and then they'll often also look at directly on the university website. And they're seeing this specifically as official information and as Beth, I think it was, said, and the facts. So Google presents me the facts. They then look on social platforms, so Instagram and TikTok, for that public opinion, so what are their peers saying, and also the lived experience. So if I'm thinking about staying at an accommodation, I want to see current, previous students, their experience, and tell me a little bit more about that. They'll also talk to students IRL in real life. So they'll also talk to students on these platforms. Again, remember, they're using these as messaging platforms to find students, talk to them, and understand their experience in that way. So they'll start on Google, and then they verify that information on the platforms, the social platforms, and in real life. So I wanted to find out about how they looked online for information online about their first year uni accommodation.
I relied solely on like the aesthetics of the photos because I live in Wiltshire, which is quite far from Nottingham. So I basically, again, university website, so like looked at all the pictures and was like, the nicest one is where I want to live, basically. So the one that had the nicest photos, but the one I chose was like only had been built a year ago from then. So they had like not a lot of information about it. So when I went to go search on TikTok, I think I found one TikTok that someone had made that they lived there before. So I kind of scoped that out.
When I was looking for accommodation, I think I started off with like what the uni recommended. I'd look on Facebook and like see in like the student groups to see if anyone's complained about them. And if anyone's complained, then I'd be like, nah. But if everyone had like pretty good reviews, then I'd go with that.
I went on TikTok.
Oliver, you've just been muted. Oliver?
And then when you looked on
There you go.
TikTok, you were getting loads of bad reviews or kind of comments and things like that. Would that be enough to make you change your original decision of where you were going to live?
That did. Yeah, that actually did happen to me, kind of. The university recommended one of the halls. Well, they recommended a few of the halls, and I couldn't decide which one. So I went on. It's the only time I've ever used it, but there's like this old website called the Student Room, and there are a bunch of like archives from that saying how this one hall had like a silverfish infestation. So I chose not to go into that one. I went into a different one instead. So that did. There were some like online opinions which helped me sway my decision as well.
I love how Will refers to the student room as this dusty old tome that he's found in like an Indiana Jones film. it's about 5 years old. But yeah, so it's really interesting to see that even though the university promotes the accommodation to them, they still went on TikTok and Facebook groups to see what their peers were saying and validate and verify this information. And again, Beth mentions the Instagram effect, if you like. So she's there for the aesthetics. She's looking for content that is similar to what she finds on Instagram, because again, that's where she's spending most of her time, that presents this beautiful room, presents a room that she can see herself living there, but is accurate to what other students would decorate their room. They're very, very quick to basically see through staged environments and staged rooms. They want to see something that's really attractive, really good looking content, but is authentic as well. And they need that confidence to book. So have a think about the imagery that's on your website, on what's on your rooms, on your accommodation. And if you've got shots of rooms which are staged, or even worse, if they're just kind of empty, because obviously that's how students are going to see it when they move in, but that's really doing your rooms a disservice, because it's very difficult for these students to kind of see past that and see the room as it will look when they move in. So yeah, they're going to look on basically the website, and then they're also going to look on social accounts as well. So now let's just look at the difference between how Gen Z and Gen Alpha search. So just as I'll go through Gen Z first, actually, and then I'll talk through Gen Alpha. So Gen Z is essentially our current students. They're our students today. And as we've mentioned, they start on Google and websites. They look for their information there, and then they go down to the social platforms and they check that information. They check to see if the information that they've been presented with is correct and it's accurate, and they talk to students in real life. What's really interesting is that Gen Alpha, so these are the next set of students, these are students born from 2010 onwards, so current year 9s and younger, they're Gen Alpha. They search the opposite way. So what we're seeing is they're starting on social, they're starting Instagram and TikTok and speaking to people in real life, and then they're going on Google. So then they're going on Google and university websites to check that information. What's important to remember here is that this isn't kind of a sudden switch. It's not like we're going to have, when current year 9 start university, suddenly it switches to that way of searching. It's a gradual process over time. And you can kind of start to see this happen now with the oldest members of Gen Z, who are our current sixth formers. So I wanted to test this out. I wanted to do a bit of an experiment and see if all the research and kind of all the things that we're talking to students and seeing firsthand with students plays out with sixth form students. So I got 2 year 12 students, George and Olivia. They're at a sixth form down in Chichester. And I wanted to see how they search for information about accommodation at university. So these are year 12. They're just about starting to look at uni options, but they're not obviously, they haven't been to uni, they don't have that lived experience. They are really relying on everything they see online to make an informed choice about where they want to go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a name of the university, and I'd like you, however you want to do it, I'd like you to look for information about the accommodation at that university. Let me pick a university at random. Let me think. Let's go for Swansea University.
Yeah, okay, so we've looked up Swansea University. We're now on the Swansea University official website.
It's on the main page.
On the main page menu. And we're scrolling through the options.
Yeah, like on
campus accommodation. Now on the accommodation page.
I'm just scrolling through the main accommodation page now. And yeah, I mean, it's giving us.
There's a lot of words, like paragraphs, lots of paragraphs about what their accommodations are like.
Yeah, I mean, I've just scrolled further down, almost at the bottom of the page, and it says our residences. So I'm going to click on that. Got kind of at a glance, which is useful. I like the kind of short bullet points of their key features.
Yeah, that's good. So, I mean, still no images, which is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a video.
360 video tour.
360 video. Yeah. Oh, so it's a 360 video. That makes more sense.
The ones like you move it around as if you're there. Okay,
That is nice.
Yeah, I've got kind of the logistics of the actual thing. So now I'd probably find people's opinions on it.
This is probably when we leave this website. So that's all we're doing.
I'd go straight to TikTok personally.
Straight to TikTok. Look up on TikTok, Swansea Uni accommodation. There you go. There's some videos first by the official Swansea Uni TikTok.
Got a nice kind of overview of what it's like outside the surrounding area and stuff. They've got the tours done by students, which is good.
I'd say it's more useful anyway than just reading it off the website. Because it looks like they're made a bit more by the students, then that's better than just seeing it like on a bunch of words. You know, it seems more personal.
So a couple of things to point out and a couple of things to note from that little experiment. So the first one is that they didn't stay long on the uni website because it was predominantly text-based. And also, you've got to remember, most of the time these students are going to be looking at the site on a mobile. So as you saw, they were scrolling down, and it was actually quite a big corridor, a column of text that they were going through. And they didn't read any of it. They just went straight past it, and they went straight to the bullet points. And as Olivia mentioned, she really liked that part. She thought that was a really clear, concise way of looking for that information. So just have a think about how you're presenting that information online, and our recommendation would be really cut down on the text, cut down on the text that you've got, and also think about, from a mobile point of view, what does it look like? Because actually it can look very different from desktop to mobile. The other thing is that they went on TikTok before Instagram or YouTube, and this was again something we've been seeing a lot with sixth form students, and obviously the younger kind of current students. TikTok is the go-to platform. It is that destination for short form content that students are using to look for information, and also it's used as a messaging platform. So I don't know if anyone noticed, but at one point as they were looking through it, Olivia had a notification saying that a couple of her, or several of her friends had sent her messages. So just proof, if you like, that these platforms are used equally as messaging as it is for kind of social content and looking online. So Well, YouTube is, I don't know if people know this, but YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. So after Google, I'm talking about everyone who uses the internet now. After Google, people use YouTube as that search engine. It's a way to get visual results, video results, and obviously it's a lot easier to kind of look for certain content and get that explainer content through YouTube. So if it's so popular and if it's so important, why didn't they use it?
Short form content is obviously a lot more useful. Like YouTube, you look at you have to scroll through the videos, and then you're putting it into a 10, 20-minute video, and you sat there for a while before actually getting the information. Whereas TikTok is, bum, 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 bum. And YouTube's good if you know what you want, but not as good for finding out things, I guess.
And I'd say YouTube would probably be better if once you've decided it's almost definitely this university, or you were going into it deeper. If it's just an initial kind of look over, I probably wouldn't.
So this is really, really important, and this is where we kind of get to the difference in how we create content for these students. So as they both pointed out, for that initial search, they're going on TikTok, they're going on to a lesser extent Instagram, but they're just looking at short form content. So when they're making these initial decisions, they're kind of, sussing things out a little bit for any topic. But let's take again the topic of looking for uni accommodation. They are just looking for short form content. They're not really in the mindset of kind of going into YouTube and, as George said, going through all this content, all these results, and then trying to, watch 5-10 minutes of a video before they work out whether that's useful or not. TikTok, from their point of view, short form content, and as George said, bang, 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 bang. Very quickly, you can get an idea of, okay, well, is this where I want to live? Is this the kind of thing that I'm looking for? And bearing in mind as well, you've got the comments on TikTok videos, so you can kind of, as you're watching the videos, see what other people are saying, and you might find that the comments are disagreeing with the video. But if they are, and if that is the case, then you can kind of discount that video. But if a lot of them are saying, oh yeah, I found that was like what happened for me when I was at uni or when I lived there, again, it kind of strengthens the validity or the quality of that content. So that short form video content, that's for that initial searching. And then, as Olivia said, once they kind of know where they want to go, or they kind of want to do a bit of a deeper dive, that's where YouTube comes in. That's where we have this longer form content, which is, let's say, 3 to 10 minutes long, which is more in depth, it's more detailed, and it goes into the topics in a lot more detail to kind of give those students the information that they're looking for. So this is a really good way to think about how the kind of content you need based on what you're trying to tell students. If it's that attracting students, or if it's about promoting something to students, then the short form content is what we were looking for. It's very quick, it's very to the point, it grabs their attention. And then the idea from there is to pull them to YouTube or pull them to long form content where you can take the time to explain and promote in more detail your offering. So we've actually done this with a client of ours with Oxford Brook. So we're in the process of just updating their whole accommodation website because they recognized that it was quite out of date. They didn't have any issues with filling rooms or with booking rooms or anything like that, but they understood that the quality of the images, the video content on there was old. It wasn't really doing its job, and in order to keep up with the next wave of students, they needed a refresh. So we put this into practice actually. So we created short form content. These were 15 to 30 second vertical videos, which were essentially a summary of what life is like in each of the accommodations. We called it 3 Things I Love About, and then obviously the name of the accommodation. And these were literally 3 points, 3 things that students are going to like about Crescent Hall. And it could be, it's a low budget accommodation, it's really friendly, and it's in a great location. That was it. And the idea for this was that if you were kind of thinking, okay, yeah, I'm looking for low budget, I want somewhere friendly, actually I want somewhere in a good location, tick, 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 great, I want to learn more. So the idea of this is that we were specifically going after this kind of top level, short form, initial search content. As well as that, we did slightly longer, deeper dive content, which were the YouTube videos. So these were Check Out Crescent Hall. And this was, again, not much longer, actually, only probably about 2 minutes, 1 minute 30 to 2 minutes. But this was going in a little bit more depth and a little bit more detail around what living at Crescent Hall was like. So this was showing the rooms. It was showing the kitchens, showing kind of the community aspect, talking about the Brooks bus, because, okay, it might be a little bit further out, but you've got a Brooks bus, which is free, gets you to uni in about 10 minutes. So you've got the benefit of a cheap accommodation because it's further out, but actually you've got a Brooks bus, which gets you there. So you can save money and you're not having to kind of, stay near the accommodation if budget is an issue. In this, we also talked about the difference between ensuite and shared bathrooms. And again, made that point of, actually, you could save quite a bit of money if you choose to go shared rather than ensuite. That money could then be used for more nights out. It could be used for going away with your friends, and trying to rebalance the appeal of different accommodation stock through this content. But this is something that we've just finished actually with Oxford Brooks. They're updating the website over the next kind of week or so. More than happy to share links to it and to kind of show or talk a little bit more about the work that we've done for these guys afterwards, or if you want to email us to learn more than happy to talk through that. But yeah, we broke this down into 2 ways. And the key thing is here is a lot of people kind of do the main YouTube video and then go, okay, we'll cut that down into shorter content. We didn't do this. We chose to do specifically different short form content. So it's not just kind of a mini version of the main video, it's got a different point to it and a different reason. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview of the difference between short form content, longer form content, and why students are looking for each of those types and where they're looking for them as well. So let's start to wrap this up and talk about the content that you should be putting out right now for the new intake. Well, no surprises, it's short and long form video content. And the key thing here is video. Why? Well, George explains for us.
I think it's very important because it allows you to immerse yourself in where you're going to go. Like just reading all that, reading all that stuff on the website, I didn't get a feel for Swansea University. I just felt like I was just scrolling through a website, like I would anywhere. Whereas when I was watching the TikTok, I felt like, even though I'm obviously not, maybe I could go to Swansea, and I was considering what it would be like, and seeing the people who go there and just taking it all in. It's just on a video or a picture or just something personal by someone. It's just, there's that human connection, and it just allows you to put yourself there, I guess, which is very different from just a long list of information.
So George puts it really well. It's essentially that visual, engaging content that really beats lists of information and trying to describe something that is so experiential and so kind of difficult to kind of wrap up in a couple of sentences, but far easier to show in video content. So for right now, for the students who are about to start in September, our recommendations is to create that informational content that describes your uni experience. So from here, we're talking about outlet guides, showing what outlets you've got, showing what retail shops and catering outlets that you have, campus walking tours. So pretty much walking around the campus, giving an overview of the geography, the area, what the campus it looks like, how you can get from place to place, how-to videos, simple things like how to collect your post, how to operate your radiator, how to operate the hob or the microwave in your kitchen. Content that sounds, it's not sexy, but it's what students are looking for right now because they know where they're going and they're in that, if you like, that deeper dive mode, that information mode where they just want to get as much knowledge and information before they move in. We've also suggest Residence Life explainer content. We think Residence Life is so important for all students, all residents in university accommodation, but for a lot of incoming students, they don't really know what it is. So take the time to really promote that, explain the benefits of it, and show that there's a real value in having residents' life teams there to help that move-in process and the weeks and months, following it as stress-free and as enjoyable as possible. And then getting around uni, one thing we didn't actually include in the videos that we had with George and Olivia was they were talking about transport. Actually, how do I get from accommodation to campus? How do I get from accommodation into the city? So that even though they hadn't chosen where they were going to live, that was a key thing in their mind of, I don't want to live somewhere if I'm absolutely miles away and it's going to take me 4 buses and a train or whatever to get to uni and back every day. I would want to have that reassurance that the transport isn't an issue. So getting around uni, guys, is again something that we'd recommend. We can help with all this, obviously, and we've done this for many, many years. But this kind of content is so important right now for students starting in September. When we're looking at students who are starting for the following academic year, again, that's more promotional content, and that's where the short form content kicks in. So this is the shorter form promotional messaging, the stuff that's going to attract their attention and then lead them down to the longer form YouTube content. We do this with one of our clients, actually a PBSA client called Downing Students. We have digital creators with them, and we work, and they're essentially students in their residences. We work with them to create this student content, the content that George and Olivia are looking for. But the key thing is, rather than them going off and doing it themselves, or if you guys working with the students, we're there as that helping hand, and actually it takes an awful lot of time to come up with a plan that is going to work. You're not creating content and wasting money for the sake of it, and content that's not going to perform very well or is going to be out of date within 6 months. We come in, we really make the most of your investment and get a lot of value from the content that we produce, and we work with the students, giving them pretty much not life skill, but work experience skills and knowledge to create content moving forward. And then these go on TikTok, they go on Instagram, they go on YouTube, and they go on the client website as well. And then of course we have Browser, which it kind of acts as a bit of a catch-all platform. So you can have your content going out on Instagram and TikTok or YouTube or wherever, but if you've got Browser, that also can live on that platform as well. So where we're talking about, we have this crossover of some students starting on Google and official websites, and some students starting on social. With Browser, it doesn't matter. All that content's on the same place. So it's a really valuable tool to kind of make sure that you're getting the best of both of those types of students. So just as a bit of a wrap up, and I appreciate we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but it means you can kind of crack on with emails and things like that. So we looked through where students look online for information, and again we've gone through this several times, but it is mainly social, with a little bit of main website and on Google as well. But again, think through what you're putting on your website, what students are going to do when they get on there, how they're going to look for that information, and what they're going to find. We've talked through the difference in how Gen Z and Gen Alpha search. So how some Gen Z start at Google and website, and they go then to the social platforms, and then Gen Alpha is the opposite. They start with the social platforms and then they go to the websites. And then we've gone through the content you should be putting out right now for that new intake. So for the students starting in September and beyond. Again, we'd love to help you guys with this. We'd love to kind of help you create the content that's really going to get your message out there to students, both prospective and current students, in a way that they're going to listen to and most importantly act upon. I hope that's been helpful for you. If you have got any questions or any thoughts or anything else like that, I don't know if we've got time now for a few questions, Sarah, or alternatively, you can email myself or Vanessa, who's also on the call, for any follow-up questions as well. Oh, I can't hear you, Sarah.
Apologies. Got plenty of time left if anybody has got any questions that they'd like to put forward. You said you couldn't see the chat, didn't you, Oliver?
I had a very quick look. I'm not a
okay.
big Teams user, but yeah, I can't find the chat at the moment.
No, that's fine. There's nothing in there at the moment. Just had a comment from Amy Pointer saying it's fascinating and makes me realise how behind the times I am. I think this I can definitely empathise there. Rebecca Kelly's got her hand up.
Yeah, so I'm in this meeting coming not from a accommodation perspective, but I thought it was still really, really useful and interesting. I wondered, a lot of the discussion has been maybe about making those final decisions about finding, finding the accommodation, finding the university, and maybe all of that research stuff. And that makes sense to have like a lot of bullet points and like images, and that's really important. I wondered, when it comes to more process driven parts of that, timeline, that journey of like, how do I apply? What is this like? Does that then sort of change and it needs to be a bit plainer, a bit more straight to the point? Or does this still apply where it's a bit more technical?
So on the process-driven stuff, I would recommend, again, think about YouTube videos. So think about that 2 to however long it needs to be, video content. Again, it depends on the subject, but largely speaking, more than text, because when you mention about how to apply for your accommodation, or how to kind of do something which is the nuts and bolts of that process of moving to uni or starting uni, it's a lot easier to see that as, for example, screen capture, or an animation or something talking you through those processes, rather than something that is text-based to try and describe it. But yes, there is a clear distinction of that kind of promotional content, which is there to attract students. And you're absolutely right, once they have made the decision and they know where they're going, and it's pretty much at this point of year, it's kind of information mode. And it's right, I just need to know all the nuts and bolts of where am I going to park on arrivals day? What do I do with my stuff? It's all that kind of logistical information, and the more it gets kind of closer to arrivals period of moving in, the more valuable that becomes. But all of that stuff we would again recommend as video content. We actually do arrivals day video content, which is really just to capture that arrivals experience. That's some of the most viewed content that we produce for our clients once they put it on YouTube. I know we've done some for Glasgow and other clients where they're getting 20,000-30,000 views, because when we see that, we know that there's a real demand to see that kind of experience, and actually students want to see what that arrivals day process is going to be like, partly out of curiosity, but partly to just reassure them and and turn their kind of anxiety into a bit more of an exciting prospect. So yeah, again, depends on subject, but largely speaking, long form video content.
Joanna Lewis has also got a hand raised for you there, Oliver.
Oh, I think you might be on.
You're on mute there, Joanna.
Sorry. Thank you for the presentation, Oliver. It is really insightful. I have a question about, so obviously the focus of this would be attracting content and attractive content for the intake and bringing people to the accommodation experience. But I think one of the things that we struggle with here is maintaining that engagement. And I wondered if you had any recommendations for keeping students engaged throughout the year, and what platforms we should be focusing in on to kind of make them aware of things that are happening on site, and information that they need to know but they're not engaging with through things like emails or the main university channels.
I would say browser is absolutely perfect for that. So it is essentially designed for that. It's Browser Engage is our platform, which is completely around continuing that engagement and making sure students, you have that continual ongoing comms with them, which again is useful for both that promotional messaging. So we've got this going on at this time, or we've got these events are happening, please attend them, or if you want this, as well as that informational stuff of, okay, you need to move out, here's what you need to do, you know, here's how you do X, Y, Z, here's, you know, that kind of thing. So I would absolutely suggest looking at Browser Engage, and I know Vanessa on the call can help you with that. But they're not, that's kind of the platform, and then you've got the content within that, and we can certainly help with that content strategy piece of making sure that you've got something which is achievable. It's not going to break the bank. It's is going to be a really clever way of making sure that your residents are engaged throughout the year. And we've got a great team of people, and many of whom have recently graduated as well. So we purposely look for those recent graduates because they are so close to students and understanding the student, what students are looking for. But they're really good at kind of making sure that you have that continual engagement. It's a bit like kind of getting a fish on a fishing line and kind of making sure that you're continually winding them in all throughout that process, and you're not losing them along the way. But yeah, we can absolutely help with that.
That's great. Thank you very much.
I think that's it in terms of people with their hands raised. There was just a couple of comments on there as well. Oliver, Sarah at Swansea has said, really helpful. I'm currently updating my accommodation website at Swansea. Thanks for the insight. Yeah, comments about how people are going to take the information away and look at how they communicate with their students. Andrew Todd's done a sort of heads up for Campus Life, worked closely with you and your fantastic team, can help and improve content and strategy. So yeah, don't know if anybody else has got any questions at all to put through to Oliver at this stage. Obviously, we will share Oliver's details as well. If you've got anything that you think of after the call today that you want to reach out to the team at Campus Life as well. Yeah, that's really interesting and insightful, and make me feel very out of touch with with communications as well. But thank you so much for your time today, everybody. As I say, we will be sharing the video as well if anybody wants to go back and revisit any of the content that was shared during today's session. That will be available later on today.
Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions, myself and Vanessa, obviously drop us an email. It's vanessa@campuslife.co.uk or oliver@campuslife.co.uk.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.